Yeah, so welcome everyone to our final concept presentation of a virtual Oldfluencer interface that connects elderly. We are Team Elderflower. I'm Eva Kottkamp and I'm currently studying sustainable development.
I'm Annika Holthaus and I'm currently studying urban and regional planning.
I'm Livia, Nonose. I'm studying globalization, environment, and social change.
And my name is Deeqa, Odaway, and I'm also studying my master's in urban and regional planning.
So we started off with our original challenge from the reality lab in the nursing home in Stureby and ICAx, which collaborate to improve the lives of elderly. And our original challenge was how can the public and private sector work together in the local community to promote that elderly people in their households initiate and maintain healthy behavior for especially diet and socialization, despite the current COVID-19 pandemic. So you see we highlighted here the aspects of how can public and private sector work together and the emphasis on diet and socialization. We then went into the field and did a lot of interviews, and we came to the new point of view, which was how can we facilitate a connection of the elderly across generations in order to enable the aging population to flourish. So we focused here on new points of agency and reciprocity. So reciprocity also in terms of for the elderly to have the possibility to give something back and be of help and not also be helped. And also for the possibility to do that across generations and not create a very segregated society, but to foster exchange and communication to grow together. So this point of view came from our main insights that we gathered. We talked to the public sector, to nursing homes and to health professionals and dietitians. And they told us that if we want to include technology in the concept solution, it's the elderly do need some help with IT, but they usually tend to be quite open and curious about learning new skills. And they also highlighted that it's very important for elderly to maintain a feeling of self-worth and engage in meaningful activities. In the private sector, we were mainly interested in ICAx, so we talked to ICAx managers, and they told us that they would really appreciate an enhanced communication channel in order to engage with the elderly, because there is a demand. They get a lot of questions from elderly who also use ICAx as a socialization spot, and they would really like to be able to respond to it, which they currently don't have the tools or resources for. And from the elderly and the relatives, we got this idea of a concept of an Oldfluencer, which already exists as a concept. So this is basically an influencer, but the equivalent with a person of an older age group. And they were also the ones who highlighted this potential of intergenerational communication in order to increase agency and reciprocity.
Yeah, coming from our point of view and the key insights, we developed 4 concepts. The first one is Greta, the virtual influencer bot, which is an interactive interface inside the ICAx store that provides information on diet and social events in the community. The second is Grandma's Cooking, which is a weekly online cooking class that uses food bags that are prepared in the ICAx stores. The third is Storytime, which is an online video session that enables elderly to discuss and share experiences on certain topics. And the fourth is Elderline Roulette, which is an idea to connect elderly waiting in telephone lines with each other. We went ahead and ruled out the latter 2 concepts pretty fast because we felt their connection to the private and public sector were not as strong as for the first 2 concepts, and they also focus on socialization but miss out on the diet part completely. Then we went on with the selection process between Greta and Grandma's Cooking, and we used 3 methods. The first one is the criteria evaluation, where each of us could point to Greta or Grandma's Cooking which aspect they felt was more suitable for each of them. We went on with the pros and cons table, and we found that Greta has the advantage of being a great information channel, which is also flexible and future-oriented, because if it's in form of an app or an interface, it is easily adaptable in the future. As a con, we found we weren't certain about the engagement of the elderly, if they would actually use this stationary screen inside the stores or not. For Grandma's Cooking, we found it's a great advantage that it's active, so elderly can actively participate in cooking and cook together. And it is also a corona-friendly space, meaning because it's an online video session, they don't have to physically engage with each other. We found that the con is that there's a high organizational effort, and it's reliant on specific people to push the project further. And there's a kind of a fulfillment risk. So if ICA is preparing food bags, there has to be a cooking session taking place. And lastly, we did a survey with the ICA managers and an interview with the chairperson of the Relatives Association. And they agreed that ICA is a regular visit place, which makes it as much better to use as an information channel. But the ICA manager were rather concerned about the cost of implementing a screen inside their stores. For Grandma's Cooking, they agreed that food is a great meeting place, especially for elderly in isolation that tend to eat less. So eating together also helps them meet their nutritional goals. The ICA managers mentioned there might be a lack of capacity to pack these food bags, and it was also criticized that there are already cooking classes available. We then decided to focus on Greta, the virtual influencers, instead of Grandma's Cooking, because we found the risk of being reliant on certain people to push these cooking classes was too high a risk for us. And we found that the great advantage of Greta being flexible and future-oriented would help not only focus on the current elderly generation, but also on the ones that are coming.
So with that in mind, this is the final concept that we selected, Greta. It's a virtual avatar that embodies this strategy to connect the elderly, based on a cross-generation approach, diversity and inclusion values, and healthy and active aging. The cross-generation approach wants to give visibility and exposure to the elderly population with the other generations. And also with the diversity and inclusion, it wants to reflect the multiculturalism of modern societies and also different nationalities that reside in Sweden nowadays. And also focus on promoting access to information about food and actives for healthy and active aging. We based the virtual Oldfluencer avatar in 2 main concepts: the Oldfluencer, that is to promote the healthy habits and behaviors, and also to encourage active lifestyle, and in the aging career, which we have defined as the agency in the aging process for the elderly, where they can work on a healthy and active lifestyle, but also with the community. And that is a work that promotes fulfillment and motivation. So the functions for the Oldfluencer would be to focus on the diet and recipes information, to access social events opportunities in the community, and also to provide enhancements and suggestions for public spaces. It would be through 2 main channels: the interactive screens placed at the ICA shops, and also with their smartphones using augmented reality. And that would be built on an application programming interface. So you have, with these opportunities to have different shopping experience and also access recipes at the location at ICA shops using the phone. You could also digitalize the discount coupons, which also work as an entry point for using the application programming interface. And that mainly can be used in the surrounding ICA neighborhoods, which he also uses the strategic locations that ICA has around the city and the country. So with the augmented reality, they can use this functionality to access events per area, which would be provided by the associations in Stockholm Stad. And they could also use the tool to provide suggestions for the public space, enhancing also Stockholm Stad ability to allow participatory process. And it uses the ability of the elderly to their experience or their free time to use these resources. Some additional opportunities is at the home dimension. We have used in the survey a suggestion to allow home experiences. So they can record meals eaten in previous days, or they could use reminders for medications that they take, and also perhaps play games at home using this app or the application programming interface. So these are just opportunities that you could apply the concept as well. And then I will play the prototype version of the tool, just for us to visualize it better. So this would be the screen that they can access at the shops. And this is how it would be the experience using the augmented reality in the neighborhood. This is how the landing page would look like with the options that they can use the app. The events that will be provided by the associations, and the option to select the foods in the shop, to send the recipes to their email, or to just have ideas of how to use an ingredient if it's on sale with discount. And here is the participatory functionality where they can just take a photo of a location and then add some suggestions for improve it in the neighborhood. Here, this example is to add the bin, for example, at the area, but it could be related to anything that they want to see in the space. And then they send the suggestion to Stockholm Stad. Going back to the presentation now to the concept, the testing of the concept.
So just want to apologize for the background noise. So moving on to the testing of the final concept, we opted for to create an online survey that was open to all age groups from 20 to 80 plus years. And the aim of this survey was basically to allow more insights into the use of the app and the interface at the stores, but also to see how Greta and the Oldfluencer concept was perceived by the potential users. However, considering the restrictions to reduce contact with people and due to the limited time we had at the end, we were able to only get responses from 4 people. And the participants that took part in the survey were from the age groups 30 to 40 and 50 to 60 years. So at the bottom there, you can see the colored boxes that presents some of the results that we received from the survey. And in overall, we could see that the majority of responses demonstrated that the the ones who answered liked the idea to receive information from an interactive screen at ICA stores, mostly favoring the idea of having discounts shown on the screen, but also other information like recipes or regarding diets was also preferred. Moving on, the participants also showed an interest in the app functions, which was explained by Livia before, which can help them to manage their routines at home. And all participants also showed an interest in the possibility to contribute with suggestions to improve the public spaces in their neighborhood by using the app function for public space design. And this was also reflecting back on the earlier stages of the process, where interviews were held with elderly customers outside the ICA store at Stureby. There was a highlight on the importance of having a nice socialization spot outside the ICA shop where they can just sit down and have a coffee after they have done grocery shopping. However, we believe that it could be necessary to get responses on the concept from older age groups as well. Yeah, and in general, Greta, the Oldfluencer, was perceived as a friendly avatar, and some believe that there are benefits in having a virtual Oldfluencer for elderly. But we also believe that the further research would be needed, and what type of avatar she would be. Moving on, if we could change slide, thanks. Considering our initial challenge that was given to us by ICA and the Reality Lab, we focused on the 3 main points, which was diet, socialization, and the inclusion of public and private sector. We then came to our point of view, which focused on the agency, the reciprocity, and the intergenerational aspects, which we believe could be reached through the app, since a broader spectrum of people would probably be able to use it. Furthermore, from these points, we then came to our main 3 insights, which were the communication channel, the Oldfluencer concept, and seeing aging as a career. So the concept has focused on the short and long-term strategy, which targets not only today's society, but also the generations to come. And we believe that this is an innovative communication network, as it creates opportunities for the different stakeholders to open their communication channels, but also to allow public participation and community engagement in the society, and to empower the older groups in the society to become or remain active. For further suggestions, we believe that the app could include an option for the local community to enter possible projects or renovate public areas, and allow the population to vote if they are favorable or not. And we have included the first functionality into the prototype for better visualization. And one suggestion we could propose, for example, for ICA would be for further consideration to consider the reorganizing of the many apps that it has available for the public today, since it can, in doing so, it can become easier, for example, for especially the older population, to use an app which includes all the functions. And lastly, we would like to say that the process to develop this concept of a virtual influencer that speaks to the older generations and engages with the young ones has been exciting and insightful journey. And the Elderflower team has learned incredibly a lot, and hopes that its ideas can contribute to new ways of interactions across generations with the public and private sector. And having said that, we would like to thank you guys for listening.